How's it going, everyone? Spencer Urquhart here with NOLA Prep's Friday Night Live State Championship Edition here after the wild and crazy Division II Select State title game between St. Charles and Shaw. The St. Charles Comets look like they're about to tie the game, then get an extra point blocked, I believe, and we're
No,
down by one.
I think he just missed it. He shanked it.
Just
Shanked it to the
misshanked it.
left.
Okay,
Yeah.
appreciate that, Chris. And yeah, that just goes to show how crazy it was. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that game there. And then it looked like St. Charles was left for dead. Then a 15-yard penalty on Shaw for a kid removing his helmet while still on the field, celebrating, thinking the game was over. The game was not over. St. Charles still had timeouts. They're able to get it in the field goal range.
Yeah. Shaw had a chance to, it was a 23-21 final for St. Charles to win. Shaw had the ball with a 21-20 lead and a chance to kneel out the clock, end the game with a win. And on the first kneel down, a St. Charles player, thinking that ended the game, thinking time would expire, took off his helmet in celebration. It's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and that kept St. Charles from having to use a timeout on that play. They had 2 timeouts left, and then were able to get the ball back after a shanked punt, and Tyler Miliotto with the winning field goal, 44 yards. I'd never seen a swing of emotion, a game swing like that. I can't think of anything on any level. I mean, you can go back to in the 90s, British Open, Jean Van de Velde. I don't know if you have any idea what I'm talking about, Spencer, but
Before I was born, I think.
huge lead on the 18th hole, and I don't know. There's but I'd rather focus more on the St. Charles angle of things than the Shaw angle of things. That those kids have to be absolutely devastated by how the game unfolded, and but yeah, St. Charles um, coming away with a 4th state championship in school history. Third under Wayne Stein, I believe.
Yes, it was quite the emotional roller coaster. Final score 23-21. St. Charles wins it. They're back. They had gone for many years in a row before last year where they had a down year for their standards, very much a down year, but they bounced back in a big way this year. Only one loss on the regular season. Last week, I was there for their semifinal win over U High, an overtime triumph in which quarterback Landry LeBlanc, who was tonight's most outstanding player, was able to run in a touchdown to secure the overtime win. And in the night, just what a game. Ice in his veins. Tyler Miliotto, the kicker, he had to bounce back in a big way after that extra point. An uncharacteristic missed extra point. St. Charles so good on special teams, prides themselves on special teams, arguably their biggest strength. But it turned out to be the case with him making that winning field goal from, I believe, 44 yards out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of credit, you mentioned Landry LeBlanc. He was 18 of 24 for 174 and a touchdown. He also had an interception there in the 4th quarter when at the time, St. Charles was down 21-14. Shaw had taken that 21-14 lead with 2 touchdowns in the 3rd quarter. Alan Shaw, the quarterback, ran for 2 touchdowns, one of them for 81 yards on a first play from scrimmage on that drive. And that had come off after the previous drive where Alan Shaw scored on an 8-yard run, where Shaw got into position to score off a fake punt. So Archbishop Shaw had really, not to be confused with Alan Shaw, Archbishop Shaw had really gotten a big swing in momentum, felt like they were taking control of the game. St. Charles was having a hard time moving the ball. There was the interception thrown by LeBlanc. And I even said to you there in the press box, I think these Shaw coaches would love nothing more than just to string together a couple of first downs and ice this game. And that didn't happen. Credit to the St. Charles defense for remaining strong throughout that. And then, St. Charles Catholic with the 80-some yard drive to get the touchdown that we all thought was going to tie the score and send it to overtime. But then the missed extra point kind of opened the door for that craziness at the end. And you and I both talked to Tyler Miliotto afterwards in the press conference, and he talked about how when he realized he was going to have a chance to kick this winning field goal, all the equipment had been put away. All the equipment staff and coaches thought the game was over. They took down the kicking net, and so they had to put the kicking. They couldn't put the kicking net back together, so you had people just kind of holding it up, and he was kicking into it, and yeah, St. Charles went from tears of sadness thinking they were losing to just absolute jubilation with that winning field goal.
For sure. And man, and I got to shout out Coach Hank Tierney, the legendary Shaw coach there. Just the way he handled himself in that press conference and had his kids poised, able to answer questions there. Just such a heartbreaking defeat. I know that's got to be really tough for a coach and players to have to face the media like that right after a heartbreaking inning like that. But they handled themselves very well. Coach Hank started off by congratulating St. Charles, and I mean he was
Yeah,
devastated. I mean, he didn't hide that. He's gonna have said it
yeah,
might take him 6 months to get over it, but
he
he
did.
handled it about as well as he could.
He did talk about it being kind of a life lesson, and there's probably a coaching point to be made there too. That reminding the kids, okay, they have 2 timeouts left. Okay, this is how many times we have to kneel the ball. And maybe they did say it to the kids, but I think in all these kind of circumstances, there's certainly lessons to be learned from everybody. Um, yeah, I see the next year Eagles go Shaw comment
Yeah, they
from
got a
Jeff,
lot
and
coming back. They've got a lot coming back. This is kind of a
yeah,
reset year for them after last year's state title team had a lot of seniors.
yeah, and yeah, I know they returned 9 starters from last year's defense this year, and 7 of those guys will be back next year. So I think that defense is going to be just as good, and the offense is only going to get better. But you're talking about Coach Hank and the class he showed there in the press conference. It reminded me of Wayne Stein a couple of years ago when St. Charles had come here. They were going for the third straight state title, and they had a 4th and inches near midfield, got stopped, and Calvary Baptist went down and got the winning touchdown. And Wayne came into the press conference and said, "We've been on the other side of this. We've come away from state championships that maybe we shouldn't have won because we kind of stole it at the end." And I think St. Charles that year had the right to feel like they got one kind of taken from them, not by officials, not by anything else. Just they didn't get that 4th and inches. They didn't get what they needed. And here tonight, this is another one where it really probably should have gone one way and it went the other. But that just goes to show that every play matters, every little thing matters. And that coaching point I bring up, maybe there's a lesson there somewhere for a lot of people. And I guess that's partially what sports for a lot of people are all about.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, this one will be one that'll definitely for St. Charles they'll always remember, and then for Shaw, just even though it didn't go their way, definitely some important lessons
Yeah,
to be learned, and just gotta give them credit too, just from the standpoint that they had to overcome a lot, just the way their regular season didn't end well at all. They got shut out by St. Charles in Week 10, only 11 yards of total
yeah,
offense, and then to come out here tonight and have them on the ropes.
yeah. St. Charles definitely, or Shaw definitely showed something tonight with how they managed to, they have the late lead like they did after losing 24-0 to St. Charles in that Week 10 game. Um, a couple of, I think, worthy stats to share. Allen Shaw tonight, 14 carries, 126 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. And DeAndre Franklin, 17 carries, 100 yards even. He had no rushes for loss. So everything was either at the line or beyond. And that's 211 rushing yards, actually more than 226 rushing yards between the two of them. After the last time they played St. Charles, they had 11 yards total. So Um, much improved game for Shaw there. And then, yeah, we mentioned Landry LeBlanc's stat line. Gabe Kugler, 3 catches, 49 yards, including a touchdown. Then he had the 43-yard rumble. They kind of put him in scoring position. And then back for Shaw, Elliott Love, 2 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown. He had the catch on that fake punt that put Archbishop Shaw in position to get one of their touchdowns. So a lot of good performances. Defensively, Montre Carter, 15 tackles, 2 for loss. And, when we were talking about outstanding player selections, just as well could have been him for what he did. And Shaw with Creed and Merrick's, 11 total tackles. Yeah,
For
some
St.
so good
Charles, that is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
St. Charles. So yeah, certainly some great performances on both sides.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, these kids laid it all out on the line here tonight. This was this. I gotta say, Chris, you've covered a lot more state title games than me, but this might be the best one I've ever covered, just from a pure football standpoint of just having a game like that, to where both teams are just so they
Yeah,
both deserved it. I mean, it's hard. It's one of those ones where it sucks that someone has to lose.
it felt like two defenses for a while that just wouldn't budge. St. Charles, I think, is so known for their defense, and Shaw with everything they were able to do, and like we talked about Rontre Carter and Jaquan Carter early in the game, it felt like you were hearing his name every time. And trying to looking back down here at the stats, and um, but yeah, this is a memorable one. Um, Unfortunate. I feel like it's unfortunate in the way it played out for Shaw. I feel for them, and Wayne Stein kind of talked about that as well. Just uh, like you said, that he's been on both ends of it. His kids have been on both ends of it. They've experienced some of the tough losses and failure, and now they're on top with a win that really came down to the end.
Yes, indeed. Real quick scoring summary. First score was St. Charles. They set the tone. They had a short field after a long kickoff return. Skylar Edwards punched it in from a yard out to give them a 7-0 lead. Then Elliott Love, who we mentioned just a little bit ago, caught a 25-yard touchdown from Alan Shaw to tie it up. That was with 6:42 to go in the second quarter. Then the halftime score was actually it was 14-7. The St. Charles had taken the lead there after a 4-yard reception by Gabe Kugler from Landry LeBlanc. Then Shaw scored the first points of the third quarter to tie it up, an 8-yard run by Alan Shaw, who then followed that up with an 81-yard run to give Shaw their first lead of the game with 3 seconds to go in the third quarter. And then no more points until the closing second. St. Charles looked like it was going to tie it. Skylar Edwards had scored his second touchdown of the game, but like we mentioned, the kick missed by Miliotto, who then drilled the 44-yarder to win the game with 5 seconds to go.
Yep, there you go.
That was just to show you what a roller coaster that game was. Just unbelievable. We've touched on a lot of the really good individuals there. Rontre Carter on defense. He's been starting since his 8th grade year. One of the top safeties in the class of 2027. He'll be back next year. A lot of these guys will be back next year. Both quarterbacks will be back next year. Alan Shaw and Landry LeBlanc, both juniors, both named most outstanding player for their respective teams. So yeah, I think this is one of these ones to where we're gonna see these teams back soon, I would think.
Yeah, I would fully expect that. Except Shaw will be or St. Charles will be in Division 3 next year, and Shaw will remain in Division 2. So this is the last time they'll see each other in a state championship, at least for a couple of years. And they're not in the same district, and they're not playing non-district next year against each other. I asked the coaches that during the week, so I think they enjoy playing each other, and for good reason. You get tight ball games like this one.
For sure. Yeah, they surely made this one count. And just the level of coaching in this was unbelievable. I mean, Hank Tierney, coaching legend here, looking to go back to back, almost did. And Wayne Stein really following in the footsteps of the legend Frank Monica at St. Charles. And he's also still coaching baseball. I asked him that was, the last question I asked him was about how he's feeling about trying to do what Landry LeBlanc said they did when Landry was an 8th grader, win state in both football and baseball. And safe to say he said they're going to be starting baseball practice here very soon. So it's never slows down over at St. Charles.
nice thing as a sports reporter, or if you cover St. Charles, it's all the same names, so you don't have to learn any names to spell.
Yeah, he says probably pretty much all the same guys from that start in football, in baseball. Landry LeBlanc, I believe, is a starting shortstop in baseball. So yeah, won't be too much of a transition there once we get to springtime. So but yeah, that was quite the game. Any final thoughts, Chris?
I think we've covered quite a bit
Yeah.
in our.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I'm
Let's
looking forward to tomorrow with St.
Yeah, I was
Aug
about to say,
and
let's
talk.
touch on that before we sign off. Car St. Aug, big one tomorrow, 3:30 on Saturday or tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm hearing they're going to open the second level here in the Superdomes. Here in 40,000, 45,000, something like that. I don't know. That's just some of the chatter here about how big the atmosphere is going to be here. It's going to be unlike probably what we've seen in many state championships. Just looking online, seeing things on Facebook, social media, a lot of the excitement. I mean, I follow enough coaches and athletes on the various social media platforms that you can see there's full day festivities planned. I mean, this is like a Bayou Classic, a Mardi Gras type of deal, and I'm really hoping that shows in the stands. And it's going to be a lot of purple and gold um, colors for both teams, and I hope it's more a festive atmosphere than anything, with a lot of great football to be played with Carr, their 26 game winning streak, defending state champs, and St. Aug, a high scoring team that is in the dome for the first time for a state championship since 1978. That's the game that kind of sparked the idea against Jesuit, to spark the idea of having the Prep Classic in the dome every year. And St. Aug played for another title and won the next year, but that was at UL's Cajun Field. And so there's history being made here. I'm sure I can only imagine how many St. Aug alumni will be here because of the uniqueness of this. I mean, this is a lifetime event for some of them. Carr, it's a little more, hey, we do this all the time. So, but it's still a big deal. So, and the fact that it's two schools that like to play against each other, um, I think just adds a lot to it.
Right, right. Yeah, we'll have that one for y'all tomorrow. We'll be back for our final post game show of this football season tomorrow evening to recap the Car St. Aug game. So we'll see y'all then. For Chris Davis and Spencer Urquhart with another NOLA Preps Friday Night Live. See y'all tomorrow.